Hey, unruly subjects, it's Chenjerai, and I need your help to keep the show going strong. If you love what we do here, consider supporting us by joining our Patreon community. It's the best way to back the show, and you get some incredible benefits in return. Membership starts at just $5 a month. I mean, there's nothing that cheap, at least in New York. And you immediately get ad-free episodes and exclusive premium episodes. That includes interview outtakes and other extras you ain't gonna hear anywhere else. But that's not all. You can access the Unruly chat and polls. When we have a live event, you're gonna get the pre-sale tickets and the merch. Oh my God, the merch. You know the merch is gonna be fly. And you receive invitations to our Q&A live streams and, my favorite, our annual exclusive hangout with me, the producers, and a special guest. So yo, come on people, join the Unruly mob. Visit patreon.com/unrulysubjects. And thank you for making this show possible. Rohome Productions. Hey y'all, what's up? It's Chenjerai. A while back, I interviewed an incredible organizer, activist, and artist named April Lee. April is a national activist, but she lives and works in Philly. I thought it would be special to start the day by breaking bread together. I had heard about this new restaurant called Black Dragon, created by my friend, Chef Kurt Evans. I called Kurt, and he agreed to open up the store for us. So one morning, I hopped in the car with my wife Sadaka and my daughter Yola, and we took a trip down to West Philly to talk to April Lee and to see Kurt's restaurant.
Bam! There it is. Black Dragon.
Oh, okay.
We stood outside for a while first, just kicking it in front of the store. There's this big, colorful mural of a dragon out front. So even before we went in, you could already feel the vibe. And then Chef Kurt welcomed us inside.
Oh, there he is. The man. The man, you know what I'm saying? The sensei.
Hey,
What's going on? This is April Lee.
Good to see you. Yeah.
And this is Yola. Yeah.
He was remember you look like a little bit shorter.
You remember Uncle Kurt?
No.
I had heard him talk about his idea for this place before, so it was powerful to actually walk into something he had been describing and dreaming about years earlier.
Bro, I remember you was telling me about this. I remember when this joint was an image kernel in the mind, man. And
Yeah.
Really, you and the team manifested.
That's what I'm talking about.
You remember that conversation, man? When we went to go.
Part of the whole reason Kurt wanted to start Black Dragon was that, like a lot of us, he grew up in neighborhoods where Chinese restaurants were part of everyday life, but they could also be points of tension with the Black community. And in this political moment, he wanted to create a space that would get us thinking differently about Black and Asian solidarity. So Black Dragon isn't just a restaurant. It's also an attempt to build a different kind of relationship, a different kind of feeling, and maybe even a different kind of future. And you can feel that vibe all through the place. In addition to the images of Black and Asian solidarity on the walls, Kurt also thought about parts of the structure of the store itself. Little things that can shape how people relate to each other, and that sometimes have contributed to real tension between Black and Asian communities.
So this was an old Chinese store.
Right.
So we came in, this was already done. We came in, we took the bulletproof glass down. This door right here, was actually right here. Mm-hmm. So I was I wanted to give people access to a bathroom. Because when you come to Chinese store, you don't get access.
Oh my God, bro. No, that's so, bro. All right,
access to a bathroom.
Yeah.
We made this the hallway. So.
And say more about why you took the glass down.
Yeah, we took the glass down, because that is a barrier. Because you're treated a certain way. Sometimes the respect gets taken down. Everybody's always like, "Oh, you don't have one." It's like we're doing open a year. No, haven't had a fight, argument, nothing, anything. People come in.
Look at that.
With the utmost respect.
Look
People
at that.
treat us with respect. So
and I remember that, man. Many times as I went into a space and it's like you there for the food.
Yeah.
But it's a barrier probably both ways, right?
Yeah.
Folks feel unsafe. And then also you feel like you can't really connect with folks because, you know what I mean? They looking at you. It's just a big reminder. You a threat.
Yeah. I had a lot of imagery of Black and Asian solidarity. So it's going to be this is just one, but next concept is going to be another mural of it was a protest in Manhattan in 68. Immigrant Chinese man was killed by the police officers, but it was in the picture is a banner, and all people holding the banners Blacks, Asians, Hispanics, all like marching together, and it's like ending police brutality, all of these different things, and it's all in the banner. So I got like several different banners. I mean, like public imagery from like protests where it's like Black and Asian solidarity. So
I love that, bro. And so is this image going to change over time?
But Black Dragon isn't just about fostering solidarity. Kurt also wants the restaurant to be a site of mentorship and opportunity.
It's like, so the concept, but then there's also we hire from the community, we second chance hire, and over the past couple years, first chance hire has been my thing because there's a lot of Philadelphia, we face a lot of gun violence, youth problems, so it's getting the youth jobs. So now I'm curating these places a lot of times, young guys that are running the streets with someone who did run the streets and they did 30 years in jail, 20 years in prison. So now...
You know how you can walk into a Chinese restaurant and see those pictures of food on the wall showing you what each item looks like? Well, at Black Dragon, Kurt has those pictures too. But alongside them, he has these Black proverbs, sayings you might hear growing up in a Black family. That really caught April's attention.
I'm sitting here looking at your Black proverbs. If you like it, I love it. Yes. I tell my daughter that all the time.
Yes.
But this one for the restaurant is just so fitting. When we get in this store, don't touch nothing.
Yeah, I mean I
think that's something every Black mother say to their children.
Then we actually put one on the door in the wintertime. It's like, you letting my heat out. Oh, you letting my heat out?
For sure.
So we put that on the door so people to know to shut the door when they come in.
Beautiful. Kurt, I really appreciate you opening space. Is it cool if we sit here and just kind of kick it and for a while?
Well, go. I'll meet y'all with something.
Oh, brother,
I like to try the collard green egg roll because that's just different.
Thank you.
And after that, I got excited because Kurt went into the kitchen and decided to cook us up a special treat. So April and I kicked it for a while inside the restaurant, just kind of soaking up the vibes. And then we headed over to one of my producers' houses so April Lee could break down her experiences of fighting and winning against the systems of family policing. What up, y'all? Unruly Subjects is back in the building. Right, y'all. Took a little break, you know what I mean? But we are back. Shout out to all of y'all. Yo, shout out to Black Dragon. You know what I mean? That's what you heard in the cold open. We was in there in Black Dragon. Shout out to Chef Kurt Evans and the whole team over there at Black Dragon. You know what I mean? Also, shout out to April Lee. April Lee is like a national advocate and really just a powerful figure. And I can't wait for y'all to hear this conversation. So we're going to get back to that in a moment. But there's a few things I just want to talk about. First of all, I got to give some love to the Patreon supporters. You know what I'm saying? I see y'all. Thank you. For those of y'all who just recently joined, thank you. You know what I mean? You coming on board. You are helping us to do this show. This show is, independent, and we want to keep it independent. And we're also doing this kind of like on our own dime. So all that support matters. It matters for what we're building so we can cover more things, do more things. And to be honest, it matters for us to keep going, because if we don't get the support, we're going to have to make decisions that we don't want to make. So if y'all find value in this, come over to unrulysubjectspodcast.com and, support us, become a part of that conversation. There's several tiers at which you can join. So if you if you really want to support, do that annual subscription and just get it out the way, we welcome that. You know what I'm saying? That's just a good thing. So we want you to do that. In terms of what's going on, look, y'all, there's a ton of stuff going on in the world right now. It's just the pace. Like every week I say that, and every week it feels like it gets more intense. Trump is now threatening new escalations in Cuba. There's ongoing atrocities and crises unfolding in like Lebanon, Iran. And sometimes the mainstream coverage doesn't really quite give folks what they need. So for me, when I'm trying to understand those things better, I go to places like Hammer and Hope or Drop Site or Democracy Now! Or The Dig, so shout out to all of them. You know what I'm saying? And I just, look, it ain't that I agree with everything people say in those places, but those are definitely places where people are doing some serious reporting that I learned from, and I would encourage you to check those out. And speaking of Hammer and Hope, there is a new issue of Hammer and Hope that just dropped this week, y'all. Yes. Yes, yes. First of all, for those who don't know, Hammer and Hope is a magazine of Black politics and culture. In my mind, it's the best magazine of Black politics and culture. Full disclosure is that I'm part of the leadership team on Hammer and Hope. And let me tell y'all, this new issue is so strong. It's just like, ooh, there are some really powerful pieces in there about things like, what has occurred in Minnesota with ICE, stuff about Black women in the federal workforce. If you're interested in getting a kind of more critical historical take on Trump's forever war politics and what he's drawing on, there's stuff on that. There's an interview that I did with Mark Bray, who's a faculty member at Rutgers, who was forced to kind of like leave the country because he was attacked because of a book he wrote about Antifa. And there's also some incredible cultural stuff in this issue as well, including we got the legendary writer and filmmaker Dream Hampton in conversation with the amazing and legendary jazz artist Jason Moran. So, I mean, look, there's all kinds of stuff in this issue. Go spend some time with it. And it's one of the few places where people are making room for real serious political thought, serious cultural criticism, and movement-minded analysis all in one place. And actually, I'm reaching out because I'm hoping I can bring some of the authors of those pieces on in coming weeks onto the show. Another thing I want to talk about is the fact that NYU's contract faculty are moving closer to a strike. We've talked about this before on the show, but the strike date is set for March 23rd. That means by the next time you hear from Unruly Subjects, either we might be in this strike or hopefully, NYU administration has come to the table. But either way, this is part of a much bigger fight over what higher education is, who does the labor, what the conditions are, and all those things. And basically who is left precarious while institutions try to ask not just for more and more work, but also for more and more control. And by the way, for anybody who thinks that these faculty are somehow potentially harming students by demanding these rights, I just got to say that's completely upside down. When faculty have better working conditions, right, and when they can actually control the way that education is happening, instead of like it being some business folks who are, who think a university is actually like just like a hedge fund or something. On the other, just imagine when you have classes which are too large, faculty asked to do too much, they're overloaded, they don't have the resources they need. You think that's good for students? No, it's not. So I just wanted to be really clear about that and say I'm paying attention, I'm involved, and we will definitely keep y'all posted. And by the way, if you are on Patreon, you can go hear the interview, and it really like fleshes out what some of the issues are in an earlier phase of this. The third thing I want to lift up is something directly connected to today's interview. Last week, advocates and impacted families went up to Albany for an advocacy day that was organized by folks connected to the Center for Family Representation and a broader coalition that's fighting for changes to what is generally called the child welfare system, but what many organized and impacted parents call the family policing system. And they were up there pushing for laws that would strengthen parents' rights. And they were up there supporting some specific bills like the Family Miranda Rights Act, Maternity Health Dignity and Consent Act, which was formerly called the Informed Consent Act, and the Preserving Family Bonds Act, right? So hopefully we're going to get some folks who are part of that coalition on the show soon, and they can say more about that. But one of the things that really moved me about this advocacy day is that so many of the people speaking out are folks who have lived through the system themselves, right? It's not like an abstraction for these people. They're talking about it as public defenders or parents or doctors. I even saw some children there, some social workers. Got to shout out the social workers, especially the justice-minded social workers. And yeah, look, as people who know what it means to be treated as a problem when you actually need care, resources, safety, healing, and time, it was powerful for them to be there. And that's a big reason why this conversation we're having with April Lee matters so much, because April is a parent advocate, and she's an organizer and leader who came into this work through her own experience of losing children to the family policing system and then fighting for years to get them back. In our conversation, she talks about how a moment of trauma and postpartum struggle wasn't met with support, but like she was investigated, right? And, she talks about asking herself, not just how did I get here, and like at some of those low moments, but also like as a structural one, like what systems touch my life? What produced this crisis? And why was punishment the response instead of care? Right. And, this is just an example of how April's analysis is so sharp. She's not just telling her story for some kind of catharsis. She's pointing to structures, which is what I always want people to do. And she's asking us to look at the outcomes of a system that claims to protect children while actually producing more trauma, more separation, more instability, and more harm. And she's building something different through Philly Voice for Change. And, I got to say, my wife and I were knowing April and working with her through the period where she, decided to build this organization grounded in impacted people leading, them making the decisions. It's really, really powerful. But before we get back to that interview, I just want to play you a few clips from this advocacy day because I think they help frame what's at stake here. And again, hopefully we'll get some of these folks onto the show for a fuller conversation.
For far too long, Black and brown families have been disproportionately targeted by the child welfare and foster care system. Yes, that is true. We have to stop that. Not because of abuse or neglect, but because of poverty and a lack of resources.
Hi, my name is Shelly Cannell. I'm an early defense parent advocate. I am here because I believe the Miranda Act bill is very important for our families to be able to know their parental rights from the day that ACS knocks on their door, so they're better informed about making decisions for their families. I would like my electors to know that this system can be very intrusive to our families and to our children, especially. And I think this is very important for all of us to know our parental rights. And I am happy to be here and be able to advocate for our families.
People keep saying to me, like, oh, Joyce, you need to be nice, you need to be respectful. Fuck respectable politics. Come on, Joyce. You make that face. Come on, Joyce. Right? I'm not here for it, so they still going to do what it is that they do. So I'm urging each and every person who is here with me today, who won't be with me tomorrow, but will have a conversation with someone who needs to hear the truth, tell them the fucking truth.
All right, so now let's get to our conversation with April Lee. As you all heard in the open, we started the day at Black Dragon in Philly, a beautiful spot that's about Black and Asian solidarity. And then we headed over to one of my producers' houses to sit down and really kind of dig into it. And what you're about to hear is a conversation about survival, about structural violence, about parenting, about what the state calls help, and about what real community care actually requires. All right, y'all, after the break, April Lee. This episode of Unruly Subjects is brought to you by Haymarket Books, which has loads of great left-wing titles, perfect for listeners like you. And one that I know you're going to feel is The Extended Universe, How Disney Killed the Movies and Took Over the World, by Vicky Osterweil. A provocative history of Disney's rise to cultural dominance, The Extended Universe pulls skeletons from the corporate closet to decode the political messages hidden in all your favorite childhood movies. In The Extended Universe, Vicky Osterweil takes us on a quest to discover how Disney's Imagineers have made it impossible to reflect on the wonders of growing up without thinking of Disney's movies, amusement parks, and merchandising. Drawing on extensive interviews with filmmakers, screenwriters, union organizers, and Disney adults alike, Osterweil unearths reactionary political commitments and maleficent legal maneuvers so cartoonishly evil they would make one of Walt's own animated villains blush. As Natasha Leonard puts it, Osterweil is the brilliant, generous, and revolutionary guide we need to rethink cultural production today and kill the mouse inside our heads. Find The Extended Universe at haymarketbooks.org, where all hardcover books are 10% off every day. Unruly Subjects is supported by listeners just like you. Join us at patreon.com/unrulysubjects. Unruly subjects, welcome back. Yeah. Right now, you're going to hear my conversation with April Lee. And just a heads up, when we started this conversation, we were just getting back from Black Dragon with some delicious food that we couldn't wait to dig into. So you're going to hear us eating at the beginning of this interview. And I got to say, April's story is very intense. And I think breaking bread would have really helped the whole conversation to feel a little safer. And on that note, this story, is going to involve all kinds of things. Sexual assault, different kinds of violence. So, just as you're listening, take care of yourself. All right? Here's the conversation.
Let's go back a little bit because I know part of your entry into the work around family advocacy had to do with your own experience. Mm-hmm. What was your introduction kind of to this system, and how did that kind of move you into being an organizer and advocate?
Honestly, I lost my children back in 2013. And at the time, or prior to that, I was a youth ministry leader, helped to start a few different youth projects. I was the type of, in the community, we got aunties and big mamas and all of that.
That's right.
But I was the auntie that'd take all the kids in the community for dumbass scavenger hunts, find a twig X, right? Something that I kind of picked up from my mom. She had just take us places let's go walk downtown, even though it's miles.
Right.
I wanted to be always different than the environment that I was in. Mm-hmm. Grew up in the projects, right? No stranger to ducking bullets and running in the house from the playground and things like that. So
where at specifically?
Richard Allen.
Richard Allen. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So and they tore Richard Allen down in '96. But yeah, so I grew up in that type of environment. But even though you grow up in the struggle, so to speak, right? We still had a lot of great things. It's kind of all us sleeping in one bed. We were still together though, right? We were still fam. We still had those things. But I did want better for my children, and so I was big on being a mom. All my children was a huge part of my identity. I never wanted them to know or feel the things that I felt, right, growing up. Not having food every day, not having some basic necessities when needed and things like that, right? So I got assaulted out in West Philly. Long story short, got assaulted, got thrown out of a truck. 2 guys threw me out of a truck. And I'm going through it mentally. I had just had, my daughter was maybe 6, 7 months at that time. So I just had a baby. I had my other 2 boys.
How old were you, April?
I was 24, 25.
Wow, okay.
So this thing happened. And my response to this thing happening, at the time, I'm going back and forth to the doctor because they want to make sure, due to the assault that took place, make sure you don't catch any diseases, pregnancy, all of these different things that kind of happens after the fact. And mind you, I'm still kind of in postpartum. I just had a baby. So I'm going back and forth to the doctors. Where the doctor was located at is where I got thrown out of the truck.
Right there.
Yeah, so I had to walk past the corner that I got thrown out of to walk into the doctor's office.
And actually feel like you have that, you have to walk past the site of that. Yeah.
Right. So I was going back and forth to the doctors, and I'm being honest with the doctor. At that time, they had me on this PrEP type medication to make sure that I didn't get any diseases. But it was tearing my stomach up, right? Just some side effects that came along with that. And internally, I was just mentally spiraling. So I talked to the doctor, hey, I'm struggling, right? I'm struggling with leaving out the house. I'm struggling, like my mental all over the place. I'm finding it hard to kind of like get up and do what I need to do. Right. And that response was an investigation. Yeah.
So this doctor, his response was to call the family policing system.
Right. And which happens a lot. So 9 out of 10 people who like make those phone calls when families think that they're making a phone call to get this family resources, right? This family need help, but that's not what it's designed for, right? So that left me, now you're not mentally stable to keep your children. So once my children got taken, I just like jumped off the ledge. At that time, they was the only thing that was keeping me from not wanting to off myself, not, keeping me getting up even though I was struggling to get up, keeping me trying to figure out how am I going to walk outside this house knowing that I was thrown out of this truck naked, right? So the response to that was I was mentally unstable to care for my children. And I just spiraled. Like prior to that, I like didn't have a criminal record. I didn't do hard drugs, like none of that. After my children got taken, I just lost my identity and kind of jumped off the ledge.
Right.
So I just dropped a bunch of pills on top of my emotions. Yeah. So after about close to a year of spiraling, I, got myself up and asked myself a question. How did I get here? By that time, I was investigated maybe 20 so times. First investigation starting with my son and my first son. And it's because I had my first son at 15. And they told me, like, you can't possibly take care of your child. I'm like, what the fuck you mean? I've been taking care of kids.
I'm taking care of everybody.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, at that time, I had my own place. Long story. But, that was the first investigation. And, like, since then, I've had multiple investigations. Then I had some disgruntled exes that would just call, right? Those phone calls are 100% anonymous. So you don't even have to give a name, right? It could be your neighbor or ex-boyfriend that just don't like you, that's just going to make this phone call, that's an investigation is going to come out of it. It gets to a point that when people, like, they knock on the door, be like, all right, come in, go flush the toilet, go look at what you need to look at. Like, come on, ain't nobody hiding nothing, come on. Right. But I kind of felt like they kind of finally caught me slipping, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's go back to that moment where you said, how did I get here? What did it look like for you to then move from that into, the April that is here now, who I know as a national leader. Right. That's the April I met.
Right. And it just serves this purpose that people have histories, right? No one wakes up and say, hey, I want to have my children removed. Hey, I feel like being incarcerated today. Hey, can you give me some addiction, right? But me asking myself that question, right? How did I get here? And during that process, I'm looking at how many different systems has touched my life. Why is it that we as children are able to go hungry when you can walk 4 blocks in and the neighborhood is cool? Right?
So when you say, how did I get here?
How did I get? That's
a structural question.
Yeah,
you're asking what systems impacted me as part.
What systems impacted me? What part did I play in me being here? Mm-hmm. What part did someone else play in me being here? Mm-hmm. Like that whole internal search, right? So part of some of my recovery aspects is like that inventory, like that self-inventory. Dig deep.
What was the first step you took into advocacy?
So, during that process of me, figuring out how I got there, and once I really started to see how someone in my community end up in the position that I'm in, I'm like, okay, now what needs to change? For me, I got tired of being that person that's sitting on a couch looking at the TV and being like, look, the world is fucked up, right? this neighborhood is messed up and this,
Right.
you know, we have people, and no shots against anyone,
Yeah.
right? That sit and say, I see this issue, I see this problem, I'm going to talk about this issue, I'm going to talk about this problem, but never say, okay, what is the solution to that problem? Like, how do we fix that problem? I'm not going to look at my community, like throughout the years I have like evolved, and as my understanding evolved, my advocacy evolves, right? Like, we was kind of having that conversation, right?
Yeah.
That gratitude at first, when you first become an advocate. Like, I was putting my hands in anything that would better my community.
Right.
So for me, it was like, all right, they had like this community advisory board here, and they had like, all right, well, let me, you know, go out and feed the people.
Right.
Let me go out and make care packages. I would make hundreds of care packages. Because for me to get past the mental piece, right, it's hard to come out of the project mentality, right? It even take it further, the victim mentality. Now, for a fact, what has happened to me throughout my life is no doubt fucked up, right? So how do I, who I am right now, just automatically become a national advocate? No, like, I had a lot of work and a lot of footwork, right? Part of that, I did like volunteered and did shit for gift cards. No lie, gift cards, $25 gift cards. I hate gift cards to this day, right?
Right. Because you're saying at one point that was like payment.
That was the payment. That's what they paid me, right? But it was all, I always had like in my mind, one, build the shit out of your resume. Right? All of those things count.
Right.
And also to get to the end goal. Like, my end goal has never been just to, you know, help a couple people. My end goal has never been to just like, oh, let me blow up within this organization, or let me blow up this organization. My end goal now is not even to blow up my own organization. I want other people to have their own fucking organization, so we don't got to deal with this shit no more. Right. Let's work ourselves out of jobs. If everybody has their own livelihood, and we have people who have their LLCs, we have people in our community that have nonprofits, we pull in all our own resources. Like, I'm talking about an entire fucking community. I'm like, if it serves the community, I don't care if my name is on it or not.
All right, it's a couple of things we got to handle. One is through this work you're doing, you become a person who's working in this space. But at some point in this journey, you were able to get your kids back.
Yeah, it took me 5 years total. I got my oldest son back first. Then it took me another year to get my daughter back, which was my youngest child. Then it took me another 2 years to get my middle son back. And they officially all was home under the same roof in 2019. Wow. From 2013, I had to end up fighting for each one of my children separately. So,
do you remember the first moment of having all your kids back with you in the house? Or?
October 13th, 2019. All right. We had a welcome home party for my son Elijah. That's my middle son. Mm-hmm. And it was the first weekend that all three of my children were under the same roof.
Wow. And
I was taking the time to, like, we had to reintroduce ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
My brothers and sisters had to reintroduce themselves because you've been apart so long, right? Things happen. They've grown in ways. They've had traumas. Like, my daughter was abused. One of my sons was. And, like, out of my care, right? So you have, like, this whole vast amount of healing that we had to do.
Right.
So I had a welcome home party and invited all my family, aunts and brothers. I got a big family. But we had this like massive party. At the time I had like a duplex apartment and my living room was like packed.
Right.
Now I'm one of 10, 8 living. I have a huge family, like 50 cousins in Philly. Like my aunt had 13 kids, my grandma had 7 kids. Huge family.
Right.
Right. And we're like all packed into my like living room in my little like duplex apartment, and like the kids are performing. Like we put together some performances to welcome Elijah, and he got him and my daughter got to meet a lot of their family.
And this is probably, was this like probably one of the first times as they're kind of at that age at least seeing the fullness of the whole family together? Like
yeah. And I had a conversation with the kids, right? Each one individually. And we was at my home, I could show you like all the different books. A journal. I'm a writer, you know that.
Right.
But I would write out prayers and stuff for the kids, and I used to like send letters to Eli, because he was the last one, that he never got, right? I knew it would never get to him, and I would still walk to the mailbox and like mail him cards and stuff.
Right. I just have to reach. I have to reach for you.
Yeah. So we kind of had those, like, part of that conversation. Like some of the journals that they know, y'all ain't going to see these journals or get these journals until I die. right?
Yeah.
But like hearing them explain their experience, or hearing my daughter at the time was 5, and she was 2 when she was taken. She remembers someone telling her that I abandoned her. My son thought I didn't like look for him. I didn't fight for him. Like, and this is what a lot of kids believe, right? They say, well, the parents gave up on you. No, the system gave up on the family. It was never me that gave up on you, right?
There's kids out there probably right now believing this about their parents.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, their parents are fighting for them.
Fighting for them, or they went up against that Goliath and lost, right? And that's which we see on a regular basis, and why, I started doing the work that I did and still do. We tell families that, like, it's your fault, when most times it's really not, right? Like, but we carry around, myself included, I carried around so much guilt and shame, like, overcompensated. How dare I lose my children, right?
Right. But I think, it's important because, a lot of people, when they go who are working for these systems, the attitude is like, everybody we're representing just has to be grateful, and you're not allowed to critique.
Right.
You're not allowed to think deeper, maybe not allowed to think about what the system isn't getting right. And what I hear you saying is like, yeah, that's not how you was in there, and then like, no, I got, I've like lived through, when I look at how I got here, these systems are part of it.
Correct.
Because that's another part of it too that's so heavy for me, is when you talk about this moment of you and your children reconnecting. Mm-hmm. It reminded me of when you said before, like, how did I get here? It's like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
And I just think it's such an important moment of, look at the system that claims it's protecting. Look at the state that says it's caring, and look at what impact it had. Look at the harm it produced.
Right.
And what was the actual thing that was producing care versus what the family policing was doing.
Right.
Because in your story, I don't hear that the family policing was providing real care. Now, that's not to say, we know that there's people in the system who they might intend to do that. They might intend to do better, and so it's not to like say everybody's entering into this with a wicked intention.
Correct.
But I'm damn sure that story you told me was a wicked outcome.
Right. And you see those outcomes, right? I don't think any of like the case managers and things like that come into like this realm with ill intent, right? But the way it's set up, it's easy to perpetuate the harms. It's easy to like kind of fall in with your status quo, right? To not rock the boat. I talked to, I'm not going to say their names, but someone who runs like a huge organization across the country with a massive dowry, right? And I asked them, I'm like, are you going to like alleviate this issue? You have so much money, right? And you're putting your money into things that's not really making a change.
Right.
Right. You helping, but not really helping. Are you going to change and put your money into this. And he gave me this fucked up analogy where he's like, well, so if I'm in a boat and all my employees are in a boat with me and I'm trying to row this way and they row the other way, what am I supposed to do? I said, kick them off the fucking boat. The hell?
Come on, man.
You're not going to tell me that you at the head of the ship and you steering, but you can't steer the right way because one of your employees not? Kick them off the ship.
Hey, you trying to get to the shore?
What
you
you
doing?
mean? What you mean?
Come on,
Right?
man.
But this is the type of mindset that a lot of, we don't want to talk out about this because that means we don't want to protect children, right? Or, we don't want to let this person might slip through the cracks or whatever like that.
Right.
Children are slipping through the cracks now. If we truly cared about the welfare and the well-being of children wouldn't live in poverty in America. We're not recognizing the nuances of individuals' families. So you're going to hold me accountable for the worst moment in my life without recognizing how I got here or without recognizing what other systems played a part in that? Like, would I have had a criminal record if my children didn't get taken? Who knows, right?
Right.
Would I have ended up homeless, like literally homeless, on a cardboard box?
Right.
Without my children being taken? Someone who has always had a home, who has always had these things, right? Like a lot of these things are intertwined. We know, me, myself included, right? I told you, I know what it is.
Yeah.
To grow up in a project and not have access to all the food that you need, not have access to the medical that you need, not have access to like all of those different programs, right? We still know that it's people that have, like, you got to go through these weird worthiness tests to receive a lot of those benefits, right? You got to be below 150% below poverty to get this, right? If you get a low income in housing, you got to stay low income because the moment you get out of poverty and raise your income, you no longer have a house, right? So we, parts of our community understand what it is to struggle, right? Understand what it is to be discriminated against when it comes down to getting jobs. Understand what it means when you don't have access to what's going on right now.
And each of those things represents an interaction with a government system.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Like, we spend more money on incarcerating an individual than we pay for children to go to school. And you talk about my community in North Philly, where I was raised at, is one of the highest impoverished neighborhoods in Philadelphia. Also the biggest food desert in Philadelphia. Also one of the places that was redlined. Also the place that's still in poverty. Also the place that has the most separations of family. So how are we not looking at each one of those things and how each part of the government played into that?
So tell me about Philly Voice for Change, and tell me what people can do to support that, because I want all our listeners to know. I know people are going to be moved, having heard what this is about, and they're going to want to know. Like you said, people want to know, what can we do?
Yeah, absolutely. So what came out of my different positions, we asked ourselves a question a few years back. What would it look like if the community had its own nonprofit? Truly. Right? And that's came out of me and my the co-founder Yolanda Houston, like working within corporations, right? And working within government and working within like bureaucratic entities, right? Where it was a monopoly on who knew what information. It was a lot of gatekeeping when it came down to knowledge or resources. So we asked ourselves, like, what would it look like if the community had its own nonprofit? What do we need? What are we missing in our community? You had things from, one of the things that always stick out to me is the Black men. We treat men differently when it comes down to like being a single father or child welfare or any of that. Right.
Yeah, the system does do them kind of grimy. Right?
When it comes down to our men, it's just like, You either got it all together,
Yeah.
or you ain't nothing, right? And that's part of, how society look at men in general, right? You got to be this provider, but it's even more so reflected in like child welfare issues and in the community. Like it's hard for men who's struggling. So one of the men that was in the group, like, we need this for men. And I'm like, oh, so what do the men need, right? He's like, we need a one-stop shop. I don't want to go around. If I want to learn about my daughter, he had both his daughters, and they're like getting to their age now. And he's like, I don't know about menstrual stuff. I don't know about this. I need somewhere to go for mental health, mentorship, da-da-da-da-da. There's no father-baby programs in Philadelphia at all. So there's nowhere where a single father can take his child.
Wow.
Like if you don't have housing.
Right.
The shelters are really predominantly women and children. There's none of those spaces. So that kind of always like stuck out. So we ended up, I thought it was just going to be like child welfare, family regulation, but they like, no, access to treatment and mutual aid. So every aspect of Philly Voice, every aspect, is led by impacted people. We do not make any decision from our board, from our programming to how we develop our programs without the consensus of every member. So they lead the way. Like during that, my 5 years at Community Legal Services and the health department, I was looked at as, the go-to, so to speak. I'm the unicorn.
Right.
Which I hate. Right. Or I can't tell you how many times someone came up to me and told me how articulate I was or how different.
Come on, you get tokenized.
I was.
By the way, can I get you some more lemonade? Anything?
Oh yeah, that lemonade was good.
Yeah, lemonade is hitting.
But I would get those things, right? Or be looked at as a success story or as my story being a one-off.
Right.
When I understand in my community, my story is not a one-off. I am not unique.
Right.
In any measure. Right? I am not the only one, nor should I be the only one. That's like a lot of you. I'm quite sure you have been in plenty of spaces like that when the issue come up amongst our people, the black people, and you're the only black person in the room. They looking at you like, well, what you think?
Right. What did the Adolph Reed said, they look at you like, what are the drums saying, Chance? And you got to tell them.
Right.
But I also think about Peniel Joseph, the incredible historian. He studied with Derek Bell. Derek Bell was one of the actual founders of critical race theory. And he said Derek Bell told him he was mentoring all these like successful black lawyers. And he said, one of the key questions you got to ask is, how will your success be used against your people?
Right.
How will your success be used against your people? So they like, look, April Lee, you successful. You know what I mean? But it almost like something's wrong with the rest of us.
Yeah. And I always would tell them, in this exact language, fuck you. I was successful then. Right?
Yes.
I was successful even while going through what I was going through. Even being in poverty, to come out of poverty, to end up a youth ministry leader, to be this person in your community, I was successful then. I don't gauge my success on how you look at success. And that's my entire thing, right? Like, as I'm like going through and I'm like in and out of these spaces, and you're often looked at as like that person. And one of my opening statements for our launch that we had at Temple is that I allowed myself to be tokenized. And people are like, you're not being tokenized. Why would you say that? Da, 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 da.
They took it personally.
Right.
Right. They didn't want to. Yeah, but
Not
what you was naming, that's so important what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
You gotta walk through the door. I said, when I'm the only impacted person, sometimes the only black woman at the table, and you actually hear how they talk about us, and when they talked about us in front of me, right? And I gotta stop. I'm that person you talking about, right? Because your perception of people wouldn't dare to think that you're superior, right? Because in some of those spaces, I was their superior.
Wow.
It's the very person that you're talking down on. So check yourself, right? And I always spoke up in those type of situations. But in the back of my mind, I always said, I'm allowing myself to be tokenized for a reason, right? We have to think about that bigger goal. Now, one of the things that I've always done, and this is something I tell my sons all the time,
Right.
You got to be beyond reproach. Now, for sure, I have and will have people that's going to be like, look, April was this homeless, da-da-da-da. And I'll be like, you ain't say nothing that I won't say myself, right? But what you won't catch is April catching a new charge. What you won't see, right? Because people would, and this is how the system works and how multiple systems work, right? Even when a family, say, get out of the family policing system, you're still held to what you did 10 years ago. A petition, a petition for the courts will read, back in 2015, we had this interaction. What the hell does that got to do with what's going on today? But often people, right, will want to reduce you down to your experience.
To this moment.
To that moment. And one of the things that, I did, like, throughout that, and why I said I had to, allow myself to be tokenized, right? Because most people want to reduce people down to that one experience. But now I'm sitting at the table with you. We talking eye to eye. Right? We not going back to that.
Right.
And then at first I would sit there and tell my story and allow myself to be used. And then I grew up a little bit and say, well, I choose when and where I tell my story. Right? Or who I tell my story to. It's not necessarily, I don't have to like jump up at every person that want to.
Yeah, people, it's not that moment like, okay, now April perform.
Yeah.
But then when we having another kind of situation.
I went home before and had those conversations, because once again, I told you, like, I take my children and I like have those type of heart to hearts, and with my partner, and I'm like, these motherfuckers want me shucking and jiving. You get upset because it's when, especially as impacted folks, right? A lot of times, people want to extract from you. Just constantly take your energy. I want your story. They see your tears, they clap, and feel like they did something good by listening to you. Not actually doing something to change it. Not looking at me to say, okay, April's successful now. Going back to that, right?
Right.
Like, hold on. Why am I not? So you missed the entire point of me asking how I got here. You missed the entire point of me telling you how many systems that was touched. Are you missing the entire point? The same thing in this podcast. Are you missing the entire point that 86% of families don't actually have abuse?
No, they think this was a story. This was like about them and their catharsis, so they can have a moment, feel a certain way. But you're like, no, I'm pointing to you the structures that got to be transformed.
And what you're taking away is your feel good moment that you listen to this part, right? So going through that, and once we like develop Philly voice, that was one of the things that we're just not doing anymore, right? And I'm not taking shots or whatever like that. You have to develop yourself in a way. Growth is a beautiful thing, right? And I look at my life as kind of like a pruning process, right? Like, not to get religious, I'm not uber religious or nothing like that.
Come on, let's get spiritual.
Right? But it's old proverb of like you being pruned as an individual person, right? In order to be pruned, first you must dig up the roots. I got to get rid of all the bad roots. I got to get rid of these bad branches. I got to take off some of this bark. It's going to be painful, right? I got to take your children. I gotta sit there and put you in jail. I got to take this. I got to strip you down, right? Strip you down. Only to show you how beautiful you are at the end, right? There's always pain in the process.
Right.
Always, right? And I do truly believe, right, that my higher power, and you call it God, universe, whatever, right, would not, I used to think like, how the hell can one person go through all of these different things, like all this tragedy, all this pain, right? And I struggled when I finally realized, after I asked myself, how did I get here? I realized that it was never for me. So I had a battle, right? I had an internal battle. Like, what the fuck you mean it wasn't for me, right? You will tell me this is, by spirit, talking to myself, right? That you done went through all of these things. And it was for somebody else. Yeah. So once I solidified that in myself and understood that all the trials and tribulations and anything, in anything, a lot of people are like, dang, you really an open book. Yes, I'm an open book. Because anything that I have been through and anything that I've been able to get through, it was not necessarily for me. It was for me to be able to reach back and take somebody else and walk them through it.
Right, there's a purpose.
Right.
All right, so what should people do if they're listening and we want to support Philly Voice for Change? What's some of the things we can do?
So you can go up on our site, which is www.phillyvoiceforchange.org, and it'll take you to our website. If you're in Philly, you could definitely get involved.
Yeah.
Right now, we're building up our FAM program. That's the Family Aligned Mentorship, where we're going to be offering mentors and peers to walk you through those issues with DHS and issues with access to treatment, and really like just connect the community to resources. Coming up soon, our biggest hope and goal at the end is to develop leaders and advocates that can just spread, right? Like with our mentorship program and with the work that we're doing, our hopes is if we can say, for example, if I can teach you, right, the ins and outs in the bigger picture, and then you can help this family, and then you teach that family, and then that family teach that family. We no longer involved at that point.
I love that.
That's intergenerational. It's the same way they cause this harm generationally, right?
Yes.
But if we uplift our community, invest in ourselves, because we know that our communities is disinvested in, right? We know that they took out a bunch of money out of our communities. We know we've had 26 schools closed, about 13 jails built around, and you can walk down 17th Street in North Philly and see another detention center, right? We know those things. That's what they're saying about us, these outside people.
Right.
But we also know that we got genius flowing through our blood. We also know that we are capable. You can always flip your grind.
That's right.
I'm like one of the first people in my family to even attempt to own my home. This is what I mean by the grind, right? At the time, I was in a different part of North Philly, and it was a bunch of killings going on outside of my house.
Right.
And I had to we gotta go. We just gotta go.
Yeah, it's just so hectic,
because of literally outside of my house.
Right here.
I'm walking outside my door and my whole house taped off.
Yeah.
And the cop's like, you can't leave right now because we got your house taped off. Right. And this is while I'm doing all the work that I'm doing. Right. And I gotta move. I wanna try to buy a house, and I needed my down payment. You know what I did for my down payment? I emptied my refrigerator and cooked.
Wow.
I made platters. And that's how I got my house. The community showed up for me. So I said, I need to move, and a lot of people knew that. And I felt bad for even asking, because I'm the one that gives to the whole community.
Right.
Hold on, I'm a caretaker. I don't like to be taken care of.
But they understood that they're investing because you had already invested for them.
They showed up, sold out.
Wow.
In one weekend, I made almost $7,000.
Wow, in a weekend. Yeah, that's...
From the same community.
I got to say, that makes me feel like I need to taste some of your sweet potato pie. Another side of it. Not to get misdirected. April, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your story, for the work, for Philly Voice for Change. And we definitely going to get the word out. But I really appreciate the opportunity to break bread with you.
Same. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, y'all. That was April Lee. Yeah. I'm really grateful to April for her honesty, for her analysis, and for the work she's doing. And one thing that really stays with me
is her insistence that people shouldn't reduce impacted parents to the worst moment of their lives, and definitely not to confuse like surveillance with care. I mean, she's talking about family policing, but she's also helping us think more broadly about what kind of society we live in when systems keep meeting trauma with punishment. So I want everybody to support Philly Voice for Change. April was very clear that the goal is not just helping one family at a time in isolation, but building leadership, mentorship, and the community capacity so people have more tools to navigate these systems and ultimately transform them. And so if you support Philly Voice for Change, which you can, we'll put all the links and everything in our show notes. You'll be supporting that. And, that means a lot. All right, y'all. So we're going to shift gears a little bit. If you've been listening to Unruly Subjects for a while, then you heard my friend, Professor D. Noble. He's one of my closest friends, and he's also somebody I've just learned a lot from. And he's going to join us for a conversation about what's going on with rapper Jack Harlow and this whole conversation about his music or him getting blacker. And look, I don't know about y'all, but this is all over my internet. I don't know if you've seen it. It's connected to some larger important conversations about cultural appropriation. I got to say, it's weird that this is happening at the same time when the film Sinners is getting some accolades. But, especially given the way some people have interpreted what that film means. But it's an important issue, but I got to also say it's hilarious, especially the way people are clowning Jack Harlow right now. I heard somebody refer to it as not even cancel culture, trample culture. So we also going to deal with that funny part. And just, I got to apologize. The audio, when we listened back to this, we heard that there's some glitches in the audio. But, I actually wonder if Jack Harlow has hacked me and is striking back because of this conversation. At any rate, I really hope y'all enjoy this. Here's my conversation with D. Noble. All right, people, Unruly Subjects. You know what I'm saying? We in the building. Yo, we back with my man, Demetrius Noble, our brother. You know what I'm saying? Professor Noble. What's going on, man? How you feeling?
Am I? How you?
Hey, man, you know what it is. One day at a time.
Facts.
So I wanted to talk to you, man, because I started seeing all these clips about this Jack Harlow thing, and I was like, "Oh man, I gotta catch up." And I watched the interview, and there's been a lot of both interesting and just funny stuff that's happened related to this. And I think, of course, what people are talking about is a real issue, but just in case people haven't, are not tuned into this, could you give a quick recap of what's happened?
Yeah, so Jack Harlow, white rapper, turned neo-soul-less, as some may say, just dropped a new album last week called Monica. It's a neo-soul album, and on a press run with a New York Times podcast with two other white hosts, they ask him about his new project, this new sound that he's exploring. They even bring up that unlike many white rappers who have left rap for other sounds and what they say, quote unquote, retreated into whiteness or white sounds, Jack has arguably went into a genre that's even more black. And he says, yeah, I got blacker.
Oh, man.
So, of course, that little clip has been making its rounds, and for good reason, as Jack Harlow, white rapper, professes he's gotten blacker by his foray into neo-soul. Know some other problematic things that was said throughout the interview, but that was the one thing that is really turning into a viral moment that's inspired lots of funny backlash and ridicule across social media with folks taking shots at Jack.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that was, to me, the most funny about the whole thing, I mean, I had thoughts about his comments, but the thing to me that was the most funny about the whole thing was just people started coming up with names for Jack Harlow. I think, what was it? Yaqub Kweli.
Yaqub Kweli. Most definitely not.
Most definitely not. There was
Beige Loaf.
Beige. Oh yeah, there was one. Yeah, Beige Loaf is crazy. D'Anglo.
D'Anglo Saxon.
D'Anglo Saxon.
I saw one neo-Nazi.
Ooh. Yo, I actually think the most important task that we need to do today in the name of cultural journalism is to rank the best names that people gave Jack Harlow in the aftermath of this. But I do feel like, we probably should try to offer some kind of commentary on this, because one thing that catches my eye is that people are trying to grapple with this problem. And I think actually in this interview, there was a moment where the interviewer sort of brings this question of the ability of, sort of white artists to move across, into sort of black genres of music opportunistically and then move out.
Right.
Like he actually brings that to Harlow. Is that right?
Yeah. And he asked point blank, like, do you feel like essentially that white rappers have a privilege where they can move and switch genres and move around and traverse and trespass these territories more easily than black artists? And he goes, I have to think about that. Which is crazy. Like, if you really have this love for black music and you're doing this thing, like, how do you not have a ready-made answer for that? How have you not thought about that? So the fact that he's either ignorant or feigning ignorance about that is just not a good look for someone who professes to love black music so much and be a white practitioner, if we want to be charitable about it, within the black cultural space.
So it's like here you took all the time to make a whole album in this genre.
Mm-hmm.
You named it Monica, which feels
recorded it like, at Electric Lady, which is where D'Angelo did Voodoo, and he did that on purpose. Jimi Hendrix studio. Yeah.
Right. So many incredible albums, and then like, I hear people using the language of this is why we gatekeep blackness. This is why we have to, this is why we have to police blackness. There's a lot of interesting sinners comparisons being thrown out there.
Mm-hmm.
And, my sense of that is that, I basically, in general, I'm rocking with a lot of these critiques and I'm appreciative of the way folks are, putting this out there. But, for me, it is like there has been something a little missing where I'm trying to say, okay, first of all, this problem seems bigger than Harlow, and or even like the individuals themselves. Like, is the problem just that like the problem is with these artists as individuals and our anger and should be worried, sort of directed at them, or is it that there's something? It just feels to me like there's something systemic at work that we need to grapple with, and that the language that's currently circulating doesn't allow us to do that. And I think, this idea of policing blackness or gatekeeping blackness is also interesting because it resonates. Like, I know what people are talking about. Like, they're like, yo, like this whole idea that like Harlow is not invited to the cookout. He seems to welcome, even this cookout language, but it also feels a little kind of fuzzy. You know what I mean? Like, what do we mean? Like, who's actually in control here? So I don't know, man. I just feel like you always have an insightful take on this stuff. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think you bring up a lot of really good points that state why we need a more structural kind of critique and analysis to go with this. And I think the cookout language in terms of these proverbial cookout passes that black folks are just handing out and passing out willy-nilly, and that's the problem, and this is how we got here, is emblematic of part of the issue, right? These worries and concerns are legit and correct. But I think what they point to when people say we need to restrict the cookout passes, they are talking about a desire to want to gatekeep, to draw some borders around this black cultural space and territory. But I think what often goes not discussed at all is you have to have power to gatekeep. And so we have this language, we have this rhetorical framework, but we don't have the power to actualize it, right? And so this is really what's going on. Like, we don't control the modes of production or distribution. And so this proverbial cookout that we talk about, like, we don't even really own it. We show up and we work there. We labor and we find ways to have joy within it. But it is a phenomena that we don't control and own, which is why other folks can kind of come in and out, whether we extend passes to them or not. Right.
Yo, bro, this is well, we gotta slow this down, man. This is provocative what you offered us. You know what I'm saying? You are you saying black people don't control the cookout? You know what I'm saying?
Nah, I mean, maybe in a particular way, what we do have control of is whether or not we will support a particular artist or a particular project, right?
Which is a kind of power. Like we have a kind of influence over, I mean, in a way, it's like our tastes, our talent and gifts, our culture has been almost like a raw material.
Right, exactly.
That these industries are extracting from.
Exactly.
But I actually, I'm going to co-sign with you that when it comes to the means of production, we don't. We have to actually deal with, like who's our, you know what I'm saying? Like
right. Whether we invited them or not, we look up and motherfuckers is putting raisins in a potato salad. whether somebody said, oh, Jamal invited old boy, you know what I mean, or Tanisha invited old girl, we, even without that, we look around and they ripping foil back, grabbing what they want.
Right, because and we can, and again, people are responding to the Jack Harlow situation because we could just go through the names of people, right? Whether you want to talk about, Post Malone or Miley Cyrus or Machine Gun Kelly, even though I wasn't tuned in for all the different phases of his journey. You know what I mean? Timberlake maybe is even in this.
Most definitely.
Any more you want to throw in there?
Say Wahlberg. I mean, it's a whole bunch.
And so in grappling with this, folks have bestowed these different names, and I think that we need to at least rank them. So they're so good. I saw one, Link Condition.
Link Condition is great.
That's like you gotta be a little bit in black R&B worlds to even know. I bet you there might be a few of our listeners who don't even know the R&B group Mint Condition to be able to catch it. You know what I mean? It's like you kind of already got to be like at the cookout a little bit to understand that. But Link Condition, Yaqub Kweli is crazy. I mean, that's just hilarious.
That's a great one.
It's just silly.
I saw Private Enemy.
Private Enemy.
I saw Ice Cube, like I period, C period, E period.
Oh, Ice Cube. Oh, man. That's crazy. What was some of the other ones you said earlier? It was like we had D'Anglo-Saxon.
D'Anglo-Saxon, Beige Loaf.
Beige Loaf.
Somebody said, inspect your check.
Inspect your check. Yo, people, yeah.
I saw Massa P.
Oh, man. That's crazy. Massive. Oh.
A clan called Quest.
A clan? Yo, that's the problem, man. The pile-on, right? It's like once you,
Music Rothschild.
I like that one. That's kind of ill. Music
That's great.
Rothschild.
Another favorite is Jan 6 Mafia.
Jan 6 Mafia. Jan 6 Mafia is taking over, bro.
Yeah, man.
So that's a little bit of my talk with Professor D. Noble. If you want to hear the rest of our discussion about Jack Harlow, and you definitely do, go to patreon.com/unrulysubjects. Another thing you'll find up on our Patreon right now is a really fascinating interview with Assemblymember Farrah Safran Forrest. She's a radical black woman assembly member in New York who works with DSA. Matter of fact, here's a little clip of that. Why are you running for re-election, right? I mean, this is where I got to put a different hat on, Farrah, because, we on Unruly Subjects are not in the pocket of any politician. We want to support people who have good ideas, but make the case. Like, why are you running for re-election? Why is it important to you? What should we know?
Well, I will say that I came into politics quite unwilling. I loved what I did as a nurse, and I found much advocacy in it. However, when I ran with this idea that, look, if not me, then who? Somebody has to do this. So I came in with this idea, like, I'm coming in to be a servant to the cause. And when I got into office, I realized, I have to stay in here because there is a vacuum of diversity. There's a vacuum of left thought that's lacking truth. So I really see myself going for re-election, not because I necessarily enjoy traveling to Albany during winter months or leaving behind my 4-year-old and my husband, but I'm doing it because if I don't do it as the mother, as the wife, as the Black woman, as the nurse, then we're going to be missing an important voice in Albany.
Yeah, so that was a little clip of the interview with Pharaoh Safrant Forrest, and you can hear the full interview at unrulysubjectspodcast.com. Unruly Subjects is produced in partnership with Rohome Productions. Boy, I'm proud of Rohome. Alex Lewis is Rohome's creative director. John Myers is Rohome's executive producer. Shout out to my wife, Sadaka, to my daughter, Yola. Shout out to my assistant, Carissa. And big, major respect and thanks to April Lee with Philly Voice for Change. Yeah. Yo, I also want to shout out my friend Rebecca Griffin. She put me on to the Center for Family Representation and the whole coalition around informed consent and told me about the Advocacy Day. So thanks, Rebecca. Big shout out to Kurt Evans at Black Dragon. Yo, you in Philly, definitely head on over to Black Dragon and get you some delicious food. Shout out to my man, Professor D. Noble. Always good to talk to D. Our theme music was composed by Axel Kakutier. Alex Tutusian made our tile art. You got something to tell us? Some feedback? Call the Unruly Hotline at 215-436-9212. And you can also text us at the same number, 215-436-9212. Make sure you subscribe to Unruly Subjects wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow the show on Instagram at Unruly Subjects Pod. My personal Instagram is at Chenjerai. And by the way, did you hear last week's episode with Ronald Young Jr.? Oh man, it's one of our best. Check it out. And if you're enjoying Unruly Subjects, please leave us a review. It matters. All right, see y'all next week. Rohome Productions. Unruly Subjects is supported by listeners just like you. Join us at patreon.com/unrulysubjects.